Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on leechess.org and I'm playing a 15-2 game. Let's try e4. I've been playing knight f3 maybe too much. It's been a while since I played a standard game against a human. So, a Sicilian. I really enjoy standard play. What about you? Feel free to share in the comments. This is really good time control to improve your game. Not too long, not too short. Okay. I've had this played against me before. Let's go with c3. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so I've had knight f6 before. This was my idea, to take and then strike at their pawn duo, which they don't have. Okay, so they're recapturing with the queen. Well, I don't have knight c3 with tempo. I'm considering knight a3, d4, and that's pretty much it. Knight a3 with knight b5 in mind. Or maybe even some combination of bishop c4. I wonder what the differences are. Is this really such an inconvenience to black? Might be, I mean, on knight a3, playing a6 to guard b5, it does weaken b6, so maybe a later knight c4 can prove useful. Well, let's give it a shot. I'm not fearful of any queen check. e4, I just block, so I'll try knight a3. This isn't, well, I'll still be playing d4, and I will manage that. But I want to mix it up a little bit. Trying knight a3. One line, I believe, is d4 and on takes, not to recapture immediately, but instead play knight b5. So even on knight c6, I could play d4. I have enough defense for it, and I don't necessarily have to eventually recapture with a pawn. I could play within, well, I could maybe transition to a structure where I have a majority on the queen side, a 3 versus 2. Okay, so they do opt for a6. The weakness behind that move is b6. Can I take advantage of that? Well, I must say knight c4 right away seems appealing. If black has to defend b6 with the knight, then isn't that a little bit awkward for the bishop? Well, maybe not so much, actually, because we could be pretty sure b5 will occur to deploy the bishop. The bishop really wouldn't want to make use of this square anyway. So I'm not quite sure if I want to play knight c4 right away. I think knight d7 is fine. On the other side of the coin, let's see. I mean, I could play d4. I was a little bit hesitant to play d4 because of bishop takes knight, but I always have queen a4 and then the recapture. I have two pieces out. They just have their queen developed. I don't know how great a piece the knight is on a3. I could play to c2 to defend d4 if I wanted to, but yeah, I think like this bishop c4 move eventually, I mean, it gains a tempo for the moment, but later it backfires with b5, so I don't know that it's really such a good idea to do that. What am I considering here? d4. Oh, actually, how about this? Maybe I could consider knight c4, and on knight d7, I insert the move a4. And I'm then threatening a5. I think on knight c4, knight d7, Knight c4, knight d7, a4, b6 would be played, just to stop this clamping down move a5. And at that point, maybe then I could play d4. Now that I have my knight stabilized on c4, I'm going to give that a shot. Yeah, let's go for that. Okay. Let's see what black comes up with. This was the only move I was considering. Is there something else? Probably not a good idea to devote the queen to defending a square with queen c6. Restricting the queen like that, probably not such a good idea. So how to defend against a knight that's throwing an attack? Ideally, I think some pawn would like to have that role. It's not available for black to devote a pawn to defend b6, but that's kind of the natural progression. A knight's causing you an issue. Ideally, you'd like to have something of lesser value deal with that piece. Not the case here. Black will have to devote something more. So a knight will combat a knight, I think, for this b6 square. So that they kind of balance out. Is this a worthwhile tempo? I think it is. I do not want to get pushed around. Playing b5, allowing this fork, and then playing queen check, it's a fork of more than just the queen and rook. I'm hitting the bishop as well, so you just can't allow the knight to get to b6 altogether. I'm surprised that black is spending so much time here. I guess the other move that's being considered is queen to d8. Yeah, this would be very awkward for the knight on c6. So maybe she's considering going all the way back home, but that seems a little bit slow. I'd certainly welcome that move, yeah. If you want to run home, underdevelop. Yeah, knight d7, I'm pretty much locked into a4. I do not want to get kicked around. Or, maybe I could actually just play the strike in the center with d4. No, I'm gonna be consistent here. Let's maintain my knight position. So I'm expecting b6. I think that's a super important move. If I get a5 in, that really locks down on their queen side completely. The knight can't move, the rook can't move, the bishop can't move. Already necessity is b6? I think so. I mean, you have to do this eventually anyhow to get the bishop to b7, so I'm expecting b6. One other thing I did consider, I've been talking about a4, but I did consider instead of a4, d4 right away. And on b5, I was only later realizing I have a counterattacking knight to e3, basically getting the move back. And then maybe I could look for the a4 move to try and rip open the position at a moment where I have a time advantage. Not a clock advantage. Time position-wise on the board. Okay, so they're doing nothing about this clamping down move. I think that's a mistake. Well, this is a very huge positional trump, and I think it is time well spent, without question. Also, I wonder if I should really go forward with d4. I mean, I'm a bit tempted to maybe keep the structure as is, not allow any, let's say, not allow the exchange for the D and E pawn, or excuse me, the D and C pawn exchange, as this would allow some new possibilities for the bishop or knight, maybe on c5. I don't know that I want to recapture with the pawn. I know this is a pretty tame decision to have the pawn on d3 instead of d4, but I really like the clamping effect that I have with this knight on c4 and pawn on a5. This is one of those instances where, in my eyes at least, I see this group of two pawns, and it's just like the one pawn is controlling two. They're backward. have control over b6, so what would black do here? Bishop to e7? For a moment I thought about doing this, but I already have one door open for my bishop. Is this time well spent to open up another one and get on the main diagonal? I don't think so. I should probably play bishop e2, castle. We'll see what black does in the meantime. I do have this move. I should keep this in mind. Not only the forward move with an attack against the queen, but... Ooh. Alright, so placing the bishop right in a position where I could take it. I think maybe I should play this, actually. Yeah, I should look to open up the position. I'm not gonna put my pawn on d3. What's so wrong about d4? In fact, now that my knight has pressure on the bishop, if I open up the position, if I threaten a queen trade, I'm threatening more than that. Threatening to take that bishop. This knight is still a monster, with or without queens. d4 seems right. Don't know that I'm really threatening to take just yet. You know, here's another way to view it. If I don't play d4 right now, might black establish a pawn in the center with e5, and I lose this opportunity altogether? I want to play this position where I maintain this clamp on the queen side, and I really don't want to allow black to... I don't want to give them anything in the form of, let's say, a space advantage. If I'm having to play against a c5, e5 structure and my pawn sits on d3, there's a slight space disadvantage for white. So I don't want to give black that. So I'm pretty much zoning in on this d4 move. I'm just double checking. This queen check is of no bother. I develop and defend. Develop and block. Let's go with d4. With this bishop underdeveloped, the stability of my pieces, in particular on these light squares, it's nice to have that security. I'm never fearful of some pin or even this pressure against my knight. The bishop's not going to cause my knights an issue. So it's really only the black knights that can challenge my knights. The knight on c4, he must be a great, great bother. My dark square bishop, I'm not quite sure where he belongs, so there may be some lag with his development. Alright. So what I'm getting at is I would pretty much do bishop move, castle, and then think about what in the world to do with him. Maybe I still wouldn't even know. So recapture with the knight, queen. I really want to stay clear of the pawn capture. Yeah, let's see. Let's take with the queen. What's wrong with that? So we're going to go into, how do we define it? It doesn't really matter what we call it. An endgame or a queenless middle game? Pick your favorite. So let's see. I'm threatening to win. Just taking the bishop. We are pretty even, time-wise. Clockwise. So let us see. Yeah, I think you have to take my queen, no? On queen takes, I'm going to take with my knight. Maybe they're considering a bishop move. This is a way to cover the b6 square. There might be some role reversal. Have the bishop responsible for this so the knight can finally move. Okay. Huh. Interesting moment. If I take the queen, the pawn takes, and then my knight has to find a new home. Don't know that I want to allow my knight to be kicked so easily. Can I play queen to h4? Queen h4, this knight might play over here, but maybe that's okay. I may want to keep the queens on the board. Because another way to view this is you need to keep in mind that the d file is completely opened, so if I get a couple quick developing moves in, having the queens, avoiding the queen exchange, I could eventually grab a tempo against the queen. So that would be really nice. Black's one move away from being castled. Queen h4 castle, bishop e2, I'm just one move away. I don't think that should be a problem. On queen h4 and some idea of a knight transfer to g6, I could always meet that move with queen g5. I don't need my queen here to defend my knight. My bishop has that responsibility. f2 is maybe a little bit soft. After my queen moves, is that an exploitable point? It's attacked once, defended once. I think I like having my queen still on the board. Or really, it's coming down to I want to maintain my knight on c4. I could look to play against the isolated pawn on queen takes, pawn takes, but I don't like that. It kicks my knight and opens the door for the light square bishop. On the other hand, if I move my queen, maybe b5 will be played. You know, they have enough coverage for this. Maybe in the end I do end up just exchanging queens. Let's consider. I could do queen takes. No, that's tricky too. Queen takes, pawn takes. My knight is hit. I have to play knight here. Yeah, I could do that. Knight here and then to c2. Yeah, maybe I will in the end play against the isolated pawn. Yeah, on queen h4, I think b5, and then, you know, the knight's recapturing. They're getting rid of my knight from there. I don't know what kind of an advantage I would have. So maybe it's time to cash out a little bit and exchange queens and look to play against an isolated pawn, because I really am expecting pawn takes. Let's go for that. The queens, they're gone. How to recapture? I'm expecting this to remove this pesky knight. We will see. If this advance does get played, a6 is a bit tender. A bit soft. Some pressure would come immediately against it by both rook. The bishop already, but the rook comes to life with the b pawn advance. So it's a thinker for sure. Maintain the structure or not? We're going to see. If knight takes, where do I go with my bishop? Probably e2, keeping him off of this open file. For when a rook does play to the open file, I want it to have clear sight. So the structure is maintained. Let me be quick with this move. Keep him recognize the types of files on the board: open, half open, closed. Bishops tend to function better on, well, half open files for white, or just closed files. And I can't do without castling. Let's get castled. So still, I don't know where he belongs. I certainly want to keep him around to watch over the f4 square. And how to untangle the situation on the queen side for black still remains. They have a problem that they need to solve, which is how to complete queenside development, how to get their queen bishop out. For me, I'm one move away. But yeah, I still don't know where he belongs. I'd probably invest a move like well, I'd deploy my rook to the d file. Don't know. There is, structure-wise on the queen side, I do have an advantage. It's a healthy 3 versus 2 majority. On the king side, black has a majority, so these might be ideas to implement for both sides to start pushing the pawns, but I could still work on getting all of my pieces mobilized. I do have to watch out. The e-pawn and the f-pawn may start to push. So let's see. What is the weakness behind that last move? e5 is now given up. Black's trying to do this. If I could grab the bishop pair, at least I'm playing still with something here. Well, it still is something. There still is an imbalance. There's an imbalance in the position regarding the structure. But if I could also grab the bishop pair, I think that would be nice. So let's improve this knight. Yeah, who's going to argue with that move? Strong position in the center. A new possibility maybe even for the bishop. Don't know that he's needed anymore to watch over the knight, is he? I have some good coordination between these guys. Yeah, I still don't know where he belongs. Am I tactically vulnerable at all? I don't think so. I mean, I have one unprotected piece. Black has an unprotected piece. I'm not really seeing a way to take advantage of these things for either side. Under 5 for both of us. We're only 14 moves in. Playing with, yeah, okay, 2-second increment. Okay. Well, what is black going to do? If they play bishop d7, I'm gonna snip that bishop. What kind of exchanges am I welcome to? Is maybe a question to ask. I think having this dark square bishop exchanged, the dark square bishops exchange would be beneficial. If we imagine this position without the dark square bishops, there's some fixed pawns here that are in good harmony with my resulting bishop, and therefore these guys are one-day potential targets for my e2 bishop. Black cannot say the same. If the dark square bishops are exchanged, he doesn't really have any great targets. Now this rook is unprotected. Let's get to this file. f2 is vulnerable. Hang on. f2 is vulnerable. Maybe it is important I first move my bishop here. I'm a bit fearful of knight e4 if I play rook d1. Glad I caught that. f2 is vulnerable. This knight is restricted. Maybe I should first restrict this knight. Let's do it. Bishop f3. It's an improvement of a piece that's it's an improvement to a piece that's already developed. He still needs to play, but I needed to be a bit careful. I think knight e4 would have been a fine reply. Although this knight is in a pin, the rook is unprotected and such, I need to guard e4, I think, at least. This also makes life difficult to get a b5 move in. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But we'll see. I mean, I think black has to play here, or maybe challenge the knight with knight d7, but I have a backup here. There's two knights that you basically have to address on the e5 square. This still might be an idea, though. Okay. They're offering up the bishop pair. Knight d7 with maybe f6 to control this square might have been an idea. So I think I can take, and yeah, I probably should take. So I have knight e5 with tempo. The bishop pair. You know what? I can consider knight e5 actually, with then c4. Although I am giving up the b4 square. Rook d1 is natural and probably fine. Still don't know where my dark square bishop belongs. Maybe something simple like rook d1, king f1, king e1 is fine. No trickiness. My rook is protected on d1. Also, on the doubling of rooks, I could still play king f1 without fear of knight here because I recapture and then have a second defender of d1. Yeah, this bishop is he's a really good piece. In fact, he's the unopposed bishop. He's the tough guy. He's definitely the tough guy in the position. Yeah, he's always keeping a watchful eye on b7, even if it is indirect. This places a certain restriction on black's pieces in a great way. Not only is the knight controlled, but the knight is pinned. So I may follow up with something simple and try to be a bit practical here, keeping a watchful eye on the time, playing some quick moves. This may come down to a little bit of a mouse race. But what's most important is still to play good moves, not be the time-burning strategies don't work with the increment. So on the doubling of rooks, I'm really locked in, I think, to king f1. I don't see any great knight move that would hurt me. That can't be too fun a move to play. King improvement? Yeah, let's go. Oh, another thing was that on this knight move, I even have knight recapture to defend if there was the doubling, the d file. So I would imagine they're prepping b5, but my rook is going to be pretty excited about that idea. I think they would just lose a pawn now. If b5 is the idea, we're going to see. I could even think about creeping one step closer. Not so sure. On king e2, okay, so they're just making a useful move. Is g5 a problem? Let me just insert this move. Make a quick move. If this was their idea to expand a little bit and question the positioning of my bishop, just take that out of the equation right away. Try to stay ahead on the clock here. I'm not usually very good with doing that, but yeah, I think that's a fine reply. H6, or meeting H6 with H4. So black is back on move, and they're in a tough spot with trying to find ways to improve the position of their pieces. If there's ever the exchange of rooks, black is having to, of course, recapture, but retreat when they recapture. So one of their pieces is essentially demoted for a move. Some serious time pressure here. I hope it doesn't turn out to be a loss on time. I want this game to finish. I don't want it to be a time win. Okay, so they're dropping the bishop all the way back. So my knight. This is the first moment where I'm seeing that my knight is maybe not so stable. They're one move away from putting direct pressure on my knight now. You know what I could consider? You know what? I could maybe consider some aggressive stuff, actually. You know, initially my thought with h4 was to stop g5, but who's to say that I cannot consider forming a pawn duo and questioning the stability of the knight on f6. That would really rattle the black position. On a move that threatens my knight, I think knight e5 is perfectly fine. Let's do this. I weaken a pretty good amount of squares with this move, f3, f4, but okay. Let's see. I could play here and attack the rook. Let's do that. I don't think I'm missing any tricks still. I have the Stuff defended. So, alright. G5 and even G6. This G pawn could turn out to be a great monster, huh? Big monster. Okay, and also with G5, you know, I'm softening up the D5 square, so this advance may ultimately allow me to saddle black with an isolated D pawn, but it's starting to feel like there should be more. Let's stay ahead on the clock. Let's be consistent. Pretty much want to take with the pawn, yeah. Knight D7. Just exchange knights. This is a weak point on B3, so maybe we have to be a bit careful of that. That seems like a very passive move. Huh. G6? I do have the bishop here. I'm pretty welcome to more pawn exchanges. This seems so right. Let's do it. Maybe drop my knight into F7. He must be a pretty great bother, no? Huh. This king, I'm looking for mating nets now. Let's do that. Yeah, actually, King G2, Rook H1. I'm gonna do this. Knight D6 might be played. We're both playing off the increment. Move. Oh man. They lost on time. Oh well. What can you do? Yeah, just when it was really heating up too. Knight D6 certainly, I think at least you have to go with knight to D6 to challenge that knight, because this idea for mate, okay, maybe the king could run here, but that's a little bit, ooh, I don't know. Maybe this in the end is still winning. It's a time win, but we'll see. Yeah, let me actually just click on the, oh, not the analysis board, but rather, what am I trying to do here? Let me just go back into my profile and bring this game up. I want to get a computer evaluation. Oh, I was in the correct spot. There's already. Huh. There's already an evaluation? This is different. Just give me a moment. I'll figure this out. Local computer evaluation for variation analysis beta. What happens if I click on that? Whoa. This is different. Huh. So if you play out moves, it's going to change the evaluation? Oh. I was not aware of this. Okay, maybe we could just fool around with this then. Okay. Oh, so it just populates it as you go through it. Oh, that's different. I wasn't aware of this. Okay. So let's see where we are standing. And this is what's this? Little meter at the red, that's where it's 0. So the more that it's above that red line is the more of this lighter color you see is more favorable for white. And the other way is for black. So let's see if we are always staying above that red line. Let's see. Yeah, let's get to this middle game position. It's having me with the slight edge right around here. It's maintained even with the queens off. But nothing winning. Okay. Ah, okay, so now it did do the analysis. Just flicked up there, so we'll get to see some stuff here. So this is the first suggestion coming up. H4. Yeah. You know, I wonder, I'm thinking to myself, you know, why during the game when I played h4, why did I only see that as a defensive move? I don't know. I wonder if I could have had a different frame of mind and saw this as only later did I see it as their how to say it. Only later did I see that h4 could have been one step in the direction of this aggressive intention to form that pawn duo and disrupt the coordination of the knights. Playing with the bishop pair, you really want to make sure that the knights don't have good squares. I mean, right now this is a wonderful square on d5, not a hole or anything. At some point it can be kicked, but there is knight b4. What I'm trying to draw reference to in probably too many words is it's usually a good idea to be disruptive to the knight's position. If you're having the bishop pair to kick them off the posts that they may have, there aren't really any holes in the center. So yeah, this idea of h4 and then g4 I think was a good one. Yeah, after bishop a7 it likes me by something that's now starting to be pretty significant, a pawn plus. Instead of bishop a7, it considers rook c7, with the idea to maybe capture and then take the knight. Also getting out of the line of fire here. Let's still follow this computer line. Rook c7, rook a4 to defend. And okay. Finally my dark square bishop comes out. I'm still playing with the bishop pair though. What an interesting line. Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, that's weird. That's the suggestion, and then at the end of the suggestion it has it with a higher evaluation than what bishop a7 is reading as. Okay. Okay, we had g4 on board. Not quite a pawn advantage just yet, but I'll be curious about the final position. Was it winning? Knight e8. I thought knight d7 was necessary, yeah. Knight d7 to challenge this piece. He's a great bother. Knight d7. This is the computer line. Knight g4. You know, I didn't get to reference this. I thought of this move, but just to maintain pieces on the board. I didn't want to be so quick to exchange. I saw the capture as helping the rook, but I didn't go any further. It was just a quick thought I had. I didn't share it. This knight g4 idea. I have no particular, let's say, variation in mind with the knight being on g4, but yeah, this color scheme gambit. Let's just close out that for now. Anyhow, yeah, knight g4. I thought about it. I didn't share it. My main thought behind it was to simply not help my opponent by capturing, not help them to improve one of their pieces and maintain a piece on the board. But I have no specific variation in mind, or I had no specific variation in mind with the knight g4 move. This is still the computer line. Okay. That's interesting. You know, there is an opportunity to take the bishop, but at the end, he's a monster. You could damage the structure, but then you're having to devote a rook to defending the pawn, and that's not a good idea. Because these rooks, once there's a tension between them, you know, it's going to be a problem. You can't contest the file and defend the b7 pawn. So bishop there. This is still a computer line. Now I'm playing with two bishops. Ooh, and it's going in for this variation. Gobbling up 3 pawns for the minor piece. Ooh. Okay. Well, in the game, knight e7 was played. Oops. Sorry about that. Knight e7 was played. And g6, yeah, it's still holding an advantage. Close to +2 now. Instead of f6, it liked an immediate knight to d6. That's maybe tough to do, but, you know, because I'm going to split these guys up. Another way to view it is if you let this pawn live, he's a tremendous thorn in mating ideas with a knight on f7. Or even one day, some possibilities of bishop h6 just attacking here, and if he's captured, I'm 2 steps away. He's a great thorn. This a5 pawn started out in the middle game to be a thorn. He remained a thorn, restricting the queen side, but allowing a pawn on g6, a pawn with such great depth. Yeah. f6, 2-point advantage. Knight f7, rook d7, +2. I played king g2, which wasn't the best. But, yeah, it's still a pawn and a half advantage. I'm not quite sure how things would have finished up here. I would have liked to have seen, but, yeah, I mean, I do have these ideas coming in for mate. I was expecting knight d7. Ooh. Yeah, that's neat. So we could test out and see where the evaluation is. Knight d6. And then what would happen? Just takes here? No, it doesn't like that. Oh, it's telling me. It has the arrow here. Pay attention to these arrows. They mean something here. Aha. Bishop takes knight. And then if knight takes knight, yikes, we're up to nearly +6 because of that. Rook takes rook, pawn takes, and then takes here. Oh. So, knight takes, rook would have to take, and then... Okay, I guess I really don't have anything in this direction. I don't have the knight here coordinating on h8. I want to play rook a3 with this idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm still playing with an advantage, the bishop pair, and more active pieces. The rook, bishop, both rooks and bishop are playing. I'm not sure about either side's dark square bishops in this position. I mean, it's weird. This is one of those, I don't know, rare cases, but it's a bishop on c8 who hasn't moved, but in a way he kind of is developed. Normally you want to move him to get the a-rook doing something, but this is a satisfactory way, a fine way, it appears at least, to activate the rook by way of a3. Rook c7. No, that starts to be a little bit mysterious to me. It's suggesting rook a4. What's wrong with rook to b3? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting game. And cool tool here. This is news to me. I was not aware of this. But yeah, I like being able to check out with the evaluation like that. Yeah, interesting game. Hopefully, I think I shared a lot of things in the early stage, and I hope, as usual, this was helpful to you. I really do enjoy the standard time control games a lot, and my suggestion to you is if you're looking to improve your game, certainly give this time control a shot. Really devote some time, and I think it's a good one. Not too long, as mentioned, not too long, not too short of time control, and get some good games in, some nice quality games. And also play with increment too. You avoid the situations where your opponent tries to time burn, and helps out with the quality of the game. But yeah, interesting game as usual. I hope you got something out of it, and feel free to leave any feedback in the comment section below. So that's all for now. Take care. Bye.